He humiliated his disabled wife in front of their family and friends, confessing he was leaving her for his pregnant mistress at her own birthday celebration. But what he didn't know was that his wife had been silently preparing for this betrayal. The documents she handed over the next day stripped him of everything: his business, his money, and even his name. In one chilling moment, the woman he thought was helpless revealed she had all the power. Now alone, bankrupt, and abandoned, he finally understood what true loss means. This isn't just revenge. It's justice served cold, and you won't believe how it ends. At a birthday party meant to honor her life, a woman in a wheelchair sat surrounded by laughter, love, and the warmth of family. But beneath the surface of smiles and clinking glasses, a storm was brewing, one that would shatter the illusion of happiness in a matter of seconds. When her husband stood to make a toast, no one expected his cruel announcement. He was leaving her for another woman, his pregnant mistress, right there in front of everyone. The room fell silent. Tears welled in the wife's eyes, but she said nothing. She didn't scream. She didn't beg. She simply watched him walk away with the woman he betrayed her for. But this wasn't the end of her story, it was only the beginning. What he didn't know was that she had been silently documenting everything for years. From legal contracts to financial records, she had prepared for this very moment. The next morning, in a law office thick with tension, she handed over a folder that would destroy him. His company? Legally hers. His assets? Frozen. His betrayal? Fully documented and signed away. What started as a public humiliation ended in poetic justice. This is a story of strength hidden behind silence, of quiet pain turning into powerful resolve. A story that proves no matter how broken someone may seem, they can still rise. Watch to the end, you won't believe how far she went to take back her power. The house shimmered with lights and laughter. The scent of fresh flowers and gourmet food filled the air as soft live music played in the background. It was her birthday, her 40th. A milestone. And despite the wheelchair that had become part of her life, Elena wore a radiant smile. She greeted each guest with warmth, accepting congratulations with grace. No one could tell how tired she really was. She didn't want anyone to see the weight she carried, not just in her body, but in her heart. She had no idea that this evening would shatter her world. Across the room, her husband Victor looked anything but joyful. He paced near the entryway, whispering into his phone, glancing at the door every few seconds. Something was wrong, but Elena didn't want to believe it. Not tonight. Then it happened. Victor tapped his wine glass with a spoon. The room quieted. All eyes turned to him, expecting a heartfelt toast, maybe a romantic tribute to his wife. He smiled, but the warmth was gone from his eyes. "I have something important to say," he began, his voice chillingly firm. "I can't live a lie anymore. I'm leaving my wife." Silence. Then a gasp. Someone dropped a glass. Elena stared at him, confused. Surely this was a joke? A cruel prank? But Victor went on. "I'm going to be a father. I've fallen in love with someone else. We're going to be a family." And then she appeared. A young, striking woman in a red dress. Pregnant. She entered confidently and took Victor's hand in front of everyone. Elena's heart stopped. She didn't scream. She didn't speak. Her eyes locked on his. No hatred. Just pain. Deep, shattering pain. Tears slid silently down her cheeks. Her mother stood abruptly, trying to speak, but words failed her. Victor didn't even look back. He simply walked out, hand in hand with the woman carrying his child. The party ended in that instant. That night, the house was quiet. The food remained untouched. The decorations felt like mockery. Elena sat in her wheelchair by the window, staring into the darkness. Her hands trembled as she looked at the photos on the wall, smiling faces from their wedding, vacations, family moments. All of it felt like a lie now. She slowly rolled toward the bedroom and opened the closet. Piece by piece, she began packing Victor's clothes. Shirts. Ties. Even the watch she'd gifted him on their 10th anniversary. Every movement hurt, but her expression was calm. Not numb, resolved. Then she opened a drawer in the old dresser and took out a wooden box locked for years. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside, documents, letters, contracts. Evidence she had quietly collected over time. On top, a file bearing Victor's name. She flipped through the contents slowly, her lips curving into a bitter, knowing smile. He had always thought she was weak. That she was lucky to have him. That she'd be nothing without him. But Victor didn't know the truth. He didn't know that the company he bragged about was legally hers. That she owned the rights, the stocks, the patents. He didn't know the terms of the prenuptial agreement he'd signed years ago. He never read the fine print. She had. And now, his betrayal had cost him everything. The next morning, Elena called his lawyer. "I'd like a meeting," she said calmly. She arrived at the law office in a black coat, her caregiver silently pushing her chair. Inside the room, Victor lounged arrogantly beside his pregnant mistress, his legs crossed, arms draped carelessly. "Oh, come on," he said with a sneer. "You still can't let go? Let's keep this dignified. No scenes." Elena said nothing. She simply handed the lawyer a thick folder. Victor ignored it, until he saw his name on the cover. He snatched it up and began to flip through it. At first, his expression was blank. Then came confusion. Then panic. Inside the folder were documents proving the company he thought was his was actually registered in Elena's name. The prenup clearly stated that in the event of infidelity, he would lose everything: shares, property, financial rights. There were screenshots of text messages. Photos of him with his mistress. Receipts showing lavish spending on her, charged to the corporate card. Victor's hand shook. He looked to his lawyer, desperate for help. But the lawyer only shrugged. "It's all legal," he said. "She owns everything." The young woman beside Victor shrank in her chair. Her smirk vanished. She let go of his hand. Elena watched them both in silence. Still no hatred. No gloating. Just an icy, graceful composure. Finally, she spoke. "You wanted freedom, Victor. Now you have it. Without money. Without a company. Without a name." Victor's face turned pale. He looked lost. Broken. For the first time, he wasn't in control. He wasn't admired. He wasn't needed. The mistress stood. Without a word, she adjusted her purse and walked to the door. Victor opened his mouth to stop her, but no sound came. She didn't look back. The door closed softly behind her. Only three remained: the husband, the wife, and the lawyer. Victor looked up at Elena, eyes pleading, full of regret. "I believed in you," she said softly. "I thought you were my rock. But you were my test. And now I've passed it." He wanted to argue. To beg. But it was too late. Everything had already been signed. The lawyer gathered the papers and left them alone. Elena turned toward the door, then paused. Without turning back, she said quietly, "You didn't just lose me. You lost everything you ever had. And the worst part? It was your choice." Then she left him in the silence. And for the first time in his life, Victor understood what it truly meant to be alone. Broken Heart watched this emotional roller coaster to the end. You'll never underestimate someone's silence again. Fire like, share, and comment if you've ever seen strength rise from heartbreak. Pushpin subscribe for more real, raw, and revenge-fueled transformations.